Wasn't that nice? Welcome to the December 12th meeting of the Columbia Rotary Club. And guess what? 100 years to the day since our first meeting. 100 years to the day. I don't know about you, but it kind of gives me goosebumps to know that we're at this point in the life of our club. It's exciting that we've been together, a lot of us, as long as we have, and to think we're at the end of 100 years of the life of this club. Pretty exciting. We'll start off with the national anthem. Jim and Rusty will lead us. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light, us so proudly we hail, at the twilight's last gleaming, whose lights and bright stars through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare above the bursting in air gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, fellas, for that. Rusty's getting pretty good at playing that now. He's played it enough. He's got it down, I think. Thank you, Rusty. Catherine Davis will lead us in our invocation.
Good afternoon. Please join me in prayer. Our Lord and our God, our deliverer and protector, the one who will never leave us and never forsake us, we offer you our praise and our gratitude, for we are most thankful for your many blessings. We call upon you to continue to be the one who leads us and guides us into your promises. In keeping with our Rotary principles, we call upon you to renew in us our commitment to lead and serve others. Renew in us a spirit to help others by making the necessary sacrifices for the greater good of others. Thank you so much for your great compassion and your great love and care. Thank you for teaching us to be the very best that we can be each and every day. Please bless the food that has been prepared for us today and bless those who prepared it. May it nourish and strengthen our minds and our bodies. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. Are you going to try it? Okay. Kathy's a little short on voice, but she's going to do these introductions anyway.
I think it's my best Lauren Bacall imitation. And if you don't know, if you're not old enough to know who Lauren Bacall was, she was married to Humphrey Bogart, but maybe you don't remember who he was either. We only have 3 visiting Rotarians today. Jennifer Hardy with the Spring Valley Club. Jennifer, if you'd stand up. You want to tell them a little bit about why you're here?
So this is my original Rotary Club. I was in the club many years ago, so it's always nice to be back here to the Columbia Rotary. But I am here on behalf of Spring Valley Rotary today. Our annual pecan sale is going on, and our goal is $175,000 in sales this year, which is tremendous, up about $25,000 from last year. I've got pecans out front if you'd like to purchase them. All the proceeds go back to local charities here, many of which you support with the Alzheimer's Association and Big Brothers Big Sisters and Youth Corps, so please stop by and purchase some pecans from me. Thanks.
Thank you. We have Jim Hudson, who is a regular visitor from the Columbia East Club. Jim, welcome. And from the Rotary Club of Florence, Bruce Boyd. Bruce, if you'd stand up so we can welcome you. If you have a guest with you, if you would please, I see Ann's going to start.
Yes, I don't have a guest with me, but I want to say a huge thank you. We would not have had this event this past Friday night, which was well attended, and if you couldn't come, we missed you. But I'd like to ask the following people to please stand. Susan Elkins, Veriva Harris, Mark Sullivan, Roger Stroop, Libby Gober, Glenn Ward, John Backus, Henry Clay, Jason Snyder, David Campbell, Max Stone, and Dot Ryle. Y'all give these folks a huge hand. Thank you so much.
If you have a guest with you, would you raise your hand so Lanier can come bring you the microphone?
Being a guest Rotarian myself, I brought a guest. Okay, not really.
Thanks, Butch.
I brought a guest. A young man named Owen Thomas from Lumberton, North Carolina is with us today.
Thank you. And that was Butch Wallace, if you didn't know. Anybody else? Well, wonderful. Thank you all for being here, and hopefully next week I can wish you a Merry Christmas in a little better voice.
I thought that was pretty sexy. Did the rest of you all think that was And she almost chickened out. She almost didn't do it. Why don't we take a minute and stand up and meet and greet? Why don't you say hello to somebody you're not sure you know, and while you're moving around, last call for ballots. If you got your ballots ready, wave them around. John Durst or somebody will come pick them up. If you got a ballot, hold it up in the air, please, so we can pick them up. Thank you for going through that ballot process with us. That's a really important part of our club's life. I see one over there, John. I see one there. The leadership of your club, including the next president after Kerry, will come out of this vote. So I appreciate you taking the time to be thoughtful about it and give us your best work. Joe, I'm sure, understands the importance of voting. And I hope he doesn't mind us pushing everything back a few minutes to make sure we get a good vote. We don't want any recounts after this is all over. No hanging chads, right? All right, we'll move along here. Next, we have Mark Sullivan doing health and happiness. I didn't. He won't be here. All right. All right. One of the interesting aspects of this job is you never know who's going to show up. All right. I missed that one. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit about our event on Friday night. And I want first to say, wasn't this neat on Friday to wake up, pull your newspaper out and see that? I have a feeling Mark Lett had something to do with this hitting that particular day, and I don't see Mark here, but I want to thank him. This was really special on our special day to be able to have that front and center in the newspaper. And it's a great article. It really is a great article. For those of you who didn't make it, our centennial event Friday night was the kind of thing that made you really proud to be a Rotarian and made you really proud to be part of this club. It was special in all respects, except that it had to be delayed 30 minutes because the international president was late. The real crisis that made him extra late was that the airline lost his bag. And he was only flying from Charlotte to Columbia, and they lost his bag. So I don't know how you do that. But anyway, so he stayed around the airport for a while trying to figure out where his bag was, because he left Saturday morning to go from here to Newark, Ohio. Then he was going to Dallas. Then he was going to Bangladesh. And he didn't want to be leaving without his suitcase all the way to Bangladesh and wherever else he was going after that.
John, the rest of the story is that Saturday morning I had gotten our incoming district governor and his wife to take drive to the airport in Charlotte. And they kept saying that the bag was in Charlotte, the bag was in Charlotte. So Gary Brown, who's our incoming district governor, said when they got in the car and were pulling away from the hotel, said, let's check inside the hotel one more time. And then they're back in the hotel and the bag was behind the desk. It had been delivered after midnight.
And no one had thought to tell him that his bag was there.
That's okay.
The joys of travel. Can you imagine? He's doing that for a whole year. I don't think he goes home for a whole year, just from one place to the other. He and his wife both. That's a real commitment to being a Rotarian right there, traveling the world for a year. But anyway, what a wonderful evening. We were delayed a little bit, but I thank you that you were able to just keep drinking and having fun until we were able to get the meeting started. I was worried. You all were having a great time, and I was pleased to see that. I do want to tell you a couple aspects of the evening that really struck me. Our Rotarian Dave Donges did a wonderful prayer. I thought it was one of the best Rotarian prayers I'd ever heard, and I've told him several times how special it was. I want to thank him again. That was really well done, Dave. The Rotary International President's speech, I thought, was outstanding. It really kind of got right down to the basic elements of what it means to be a Rotarian and what it is that we do as Rotarians, and all of the great things that happen around the world because we're here. And I hope all of you who heard that really got the message, the fact that we've given close to $1.3 million to the Rotary Foundation. And we think, well, gee, whatever happened to that money? And then he helped us understand what happens to that money. What does it do? What great works happens with that? And it is really, it's really amazing, all of the things that are accomplished. He did tell me that Rotary's very involved in the human trafficking issue, and that he's from Chattanooga, and Senator Bob Corker from Tennessee, a Republican whose name has been mentioned several times as a candidate for Secretary of State, was mayor of Chattanooga when our president was doing a lot of work in Chattanooga, and they got to be good friends. And he told me that he is working with Bob on a bill to produce $150 million that Rotary can work with whatever Rotary can put in to really try to do some significant work in the area of human trafficking. And so isn't it neat that Rotary has those connections around the world that can make these really special things happen? I also want to thank Roger for a wonderful history presentation. He brought up some things I didn't know about, and it was really fun to hear all of that. And I haven't talked to Roger specifically about that, but I'd really kind of like to redo that again, Roger, here for the club, for those who didn't make it, maybe in early January, if we can find a slot to fit that in. I'd really like to do that again. But it was a great presentation. Again, made you just really feel proud of what our club has done over the years. I especially wanted to thank the members of the committee, and Ann kind of stole my thunder there, but that's all right. But I want to tell you, this group worked really hard, and just Veriva and Susan, the day of the event, were there just about all day getting ready for the event, and all the rest of us had put in time leading up to that, and I can't tell you. I'd like to go through and name everybody because everybody worked really hard, but Ann did just introduce all of those people, and I won't go back through that again. But it was a really, really special evening. It was great to be part of this club and to see our first 100 years come to an end together, and to be able to celebrate that fact. And so I thank those of you who made it, who were there. I thank you very much, because it made it all that much more special. Anybody else have anything they wanted to say about that evening? I know several of you have said how much you enjoyed it, and that pleases me so much. What's that? Oh my God, how could I forget the MC? My goodness, our MC was superb. MC, stand up. Glenn. Glenn Thurmond. You know what? It was wonderful to have a little bit of levity thrown into that event. It just made it so much easier. And I thank Glenn for being able to do that in an elegant way and make it a special part of the evening, and still allow us to laugh a little bit through that part. But yes, Roy, thank you very much for reminding me. What a fun time, and it was fun working with Glenn doing that presentation. That made it even more special. So thank all of you who supported it and who came, and we were able to give the president a $3,000 check for Polio Plus out of that event. We were hoping to have more people, and we were hoping to give him more money, but we fell a little short on our expectations in terms of numbers of folks attending, but we were still able to squeak out a $3,000 check for him, and he seemed very appreciative. Polio Plus is very important to him, and I think it meant a lot for us to give him that check at the end of the evening.
Can I just also say,
Yeah.
here in the committee, I told y'all we had such an incredible committee, and I had people ask me all night long, man, how y'all pull this off, how you pull it off? And I said, incredible teamwork from incredible people.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we pat ourselves on the back here just a little bit more, but it was good. It was fun. And man, am I glad it's in the rear view mirror right now. The people that work with me have not seen me in a while, and they're wondering if I'm still involved with our company. So I'm officially back at work today. It's a good thing. Yes. Ann was the leader of that event. All right, all of the thank yous behind us, and without health and happiness today, we will start with our wonderful guest speaker today. How lucky we are on the day of our 100th anniversary to have such a special speaker guest. Thank you, and Rusty DePass will introduce our speaker today.
We are indeed fortunate on the 100th anniversary of our Rotary Club to have our 100-year-old Congressman with us today. Joe Wilson and I first knew each other at a boys' camp in North Carolina. I say 1957, he says 1956, but let me just say this. It was before most of you were born. So anyway, but Joe, as you can imagine, there are a lot of outdoor activities, sports, and so forth that go on at a boys' camp. And as you can also probably imagine, Joe and I were not necessarily the most enthusiastic participants. And so Joe Wilson talked me into stealing a jar of mustard one time on the theory that he had learned that if you ate a lot of mustard, that it would make you sick and you could go to the infirmary and we could get out of the this hike through the mountains that was planned. So I stole the mustard and we ate it and we got sick and we didn't have to go on the hike. But I don't recommend that to those of you. I've been screwing around with politics, as most of you know, for over 50 years. And I'm going to tell you, Joe Wilson is the cleanest guy I have ever known in politics. And I'm proud to have him as my friend.
Hey. Thank you. Hey, John, thank you. And fellow Rotarians, I don't know anything about a jar of mustard. Anyway, and it's important that we tell the truth. So, but indeed, I'm so grateful to be here, and I appreciate President-elect Kerry inviting me, and then to find out because I enjoyed reading the article, and I was here. I was at the Convention Center Friday night briefly to make a presentation to the RI President, John Germ, and I've gotten to work with him, and I look forward to working with him on Capitol Hill. But to be here on the 100th anniversary, being a native of Charleston, I love history. So gosh, this is great to be here on such a historic occasion. So I'm very grateful to be here. And when I think of the Columbia Rotary Club, to me, this is, I want to thank you for what a friendly group of people that you are, welcoming. And then I think of people who have made such a difference in my life, and particularly something that Nathan Valentine can tell you, that it's a conflict with the General Assembly meeting on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. When I was elected to the State Senate, I made up with you every Monday for the first 6 months of the year. And the person who saved me a seat was Earl Brown. And so, and I still think of his spirit being here until he passed away in July 2014. But how incredible that I would come, he'd save me a seat, he would tell me where to go, and then what a gentleman. And from that, he ended up being our deputy district director, working with Butch Wallace, who's here, who has the distinction of having been membership director for District 777. So Rotary means a lot in our office, and I'll always be grateful. And then, of course, to be here with Kathy Kennedy, her son Drew, is our director of correspondence in Washington. So over and over again, I think I could go table to table and point out different connections of how important you are. I know that there are new people here too over the years, and I want to let the younger Rotarians know what a difference this club has made. When I served in the state senate, I was an election observer for the first 3 elections in Bulgaria in June 1990. And to help, my view was when I got there to give information on how to start service clubs. It was Rotary, it was Lions, Optimist, Kiwanis, but it was the Columbia Rotary Club that gave me information to present to Professor Stefan Stoyanov, who was running for the parliament there and won in the election that time. And I took him information about Rotary clubs. And we were at the hotel there in Sofia, and he was whispering because he really didn't want the secret police to hear everything we said. And so I was mentioning to him how important Rotary would be for Bulgaria to become part of modern Western civilization, and people could make up at clubs all around. And his question to me, Madam President Dendorf, was, is this a political organization? I said, oh, no, it's not political. And so from that, he then began the effort to to establish a Rotary Club in Sofia. And then when he put information in the newspaper about establishing the club, he found out that in the 1920s and 30s that Bulgaria had been a very vibrant part of Rotary International. There were Rotary clubs across the country. But when the fascists took power, the club ceased to meet, and when the communists took power, many ceased to live. But somebody had, the secretary of the club, had taken the original records of Rotary Club of Sofia to a farm about 50 miles outside of the city and buried them for safekeeping, for the hope that one day Rotary would return, and it has. And because you helped return it, and now if you ever visit the really beautiful country of Bulgaria, and earlier this year we had Elena Poplarova, who is the ambassador of Bulgaria, speak, and you saw firsthand what a vibrant country that is. But when I was there in June 1990, it was like stepping back into the 1930s. It was pathetic, but it is now a very important part of NATO, European Union. It's a very vibrant country, and I think part of it was that indeed Rotary has been reestablished across the country. I also wanted to let you know that you're getting a preview. On the 28th of December, every year, I have press conferences where I announce an agenda of what I'll be working on in the coming year. And I'm really grateful. It's at our district office here in the Midlands, and then at the county courthouse in Aiken, North Augusta City Hall, and then at the Barnwell County Courthouse. And I present what I'll be working on, and then I'm really grateful that people will give me suggestions and information on other issues. In fact, 2 weeks ago when I was here, it was brought to my attention there was a young lady who had been injured in the bombing attack at Bagram Base on November the 12th. 4 Americans were killed by the Taliban at that time, and 15 American and Polish soldiers were seriously injured. But while I was here, I learned that there was a Colombian there, and so from getting that information, I went to Walter Reed to visit the young lady, and gosh, she's doing great. And but it's things like that that again make attending Rotary so important. As we're working for the future, Carrie's with the Irmo Chamber, Greater Irmo Chamber, and so I'm very grateful to work with chambers and every effort I can to create jobs and promote jobs. Last week we voted on a water bill which was to provide for the dredging of Charleston Harbor, and it will Bernie Maybank will be happy to know that the harbor will be dredged from 48 feet to 52 feet so that we can have the Panamax ships come in so that we can export tires from the largest Michelin investment in the world of Lexington, South Carolina. And so over and over again, there are issues that have come up that I'm really grateful to work on and will continue to do so. The good news, another issue here about right to work, it was going to be under threat, but the elections took care of that. And so I'm not just going to protect right to work. I will be working with Congressman Steve King of Iowa, and we're proposing a national right to work, where people have a choice to join a union or not. And then I'm really grateful the district I represent includes the Savannah River site. And Congressman Jim Clyburn and I work on this together. Even before the last redistricting, which now Congressman Clyburn represents a portion of the site and I represent the balance of it, we've worked together on this in promoting different missions for the site. And the missions could not be brighter now. I'm looking forward to January 20th. There will be, I believe, a change relative to the issues of the mixed oxide fuel fabrication facility at Savannah River site, which is jobs. And, but it's also completing a facility which is 70% completed. It would be so wasteful not to reprocess the weapons-grade plutonium and be made into fuel. And then I was really pleased to read that a survey has gone out to the Department of Energy personnel, and I was grateful to work with Governor Jim Edwards as Deputy General Counsel at Department of Energy and during the Reagan administration. And the survey was an inquiry about reopening Yucca Mountain. That is so important to all of us because the ratepayers of South Carolina, we have put $1.5 billion into building a repository for permanent storage of high-level nuclear waste. And so as Senator Reid goes to his just reward back to Las Vegas, and then retirement, change is coming, which is going to be positive. And then related to jobs on the way here, I ran into a business person about the consequences of Obamacare. And I was told that, and everywhere I go, here and going to businesses from owners, that the cost of this overall is 10 to 15% of additional cost, and then also reducing the ability of businesses to hire more than 49 people. And that they then have to hire temporary workers. And I've had the hours of work, the consequences are gruesome. I had a young lady behind the cash register explain to me, the bag boy at our grocery store, all of them have had their hours reduced. And it's just, I'm so looking forward to working with Dr. Tom Price, who from Atlanta, who will be the new Secretary of HHS. And we have an alternative plan, and Dr. Price has worked on this for years, and with purchasing insurance across state lines, association health plans, and making it, it's called a patient-centered healthcare plan, and it really will be, and it will reduce the involvement of government. In regard to regulations, I'm really very grateful to work on providing for balanced budget amendment. I'll be working with Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, a fellow Washington Lee graduate, Congressman Bob Goodlatte of Virginia. I'll be supporting, we'll have budgets. In fact, I'm really pleased that Paul Ryan, who is now the Speaker, how dynamic he is, how he's provided budgets in the past that would balance in 6 years. It can be done. By growing the economy and reducing level of spending. And then I'm really grateful the tax cuts that are being proposed by the new incoming president. We've had different conference meetings, and they'll be discussing whether it should be 20% or 15%. And hey, 15%. And the consequence of that particularly would be able to bring back particularly corporate taxes, stranded trillions of dollars overseas back to the United States, which will be, again, make us competitive in the world. And then the regulations on government, over and over again, I have people here who have visited in Washington, people have come by our offices and pointed out the different regulations that have cost jobs, have cost the whole, made the significant increase in cost of product and not competitive. And then an issue now that people are really seeing how important it is, I'm really grateful to be the chairman of the Emerging Threats and Capabilities Subcommittee of the Armed Services Committee, and I have jurisdiction of cyber. And so I'm very, very grateful that I'll be working with the President on addressing these issues. In this administration, lightning's going to strike. I've actually worked closely with Secretary Ash Carter, the Secretary of Defense, on promoting public-private partnerships to address the issues of cybersecurity for our country. And then a great thing for all of us is that the U.S. Army Cyber Command is at Fort Gordon, Georgia. I consider that our neighborhood, and I work very closely with Congressman Rick Allen to promote the cyber capabilities there at Fort Gordon. And my goal, of course, is I don't want Congressman Allen to know this, but I want the people to live in South Carolina and work over there. So I'm working on that. We need to strengthen our defenses on cybersecurity as we see every day. And then I'm really grateful it's been bipartisan. I've been working with my ranking member, Jim Langevin of Rhode Island, again, bipartisan, to provide in the National Defense Authorization Act last week that we would come up with a standard of metrics as to our nation is under attack millions of times a day. But we need to have for all the different agencies that have a cyber capability, we need to determine truly is it a nuisance or is it an act of war? And so that we speak the same language in the act that was signed. That was an amendment that I had that would provide that there would be a study to determine the level of attack, and so that every agency is speaking the same language, and so that we can be prepared to protect the American family. And then I'm really grateful that with a change in Congress and change in the White House, when I first announced to run, it was my view that the primary function of the national government is national defense, to do for us what we cannot do for ourselves. And sadly, we have seen the military reduce for the Army to the smallest size it's been since 1939. The Navy to the smallest size it's been since 1916. The Air Force to the smallest size it's been since it was created in 1947. And I'm really grateful working with Chairman Mac Thornberry that we've made progress in the last week again on this. Because in the National Defense Authorization Act and in the continuing resolution, we have stopped the drawdown on the Army, and instead of going to 460,000 personnel, it'll be 476,000. And of course that has a consequence for all of us here with Fort Jackson and the consequence and the ripple effect throughout the community. So I look forward to working with the President, and it couldn't be a more dangerous time. As we see North Korea having nuclear tests, developing ICBMs, as we see China developing bases in the South China Sea at what were not islands but now are bases, as we see Russia buzzing American ships and aircraft, as we see Iran developing ICBMs, and we see them unlawfully and illegally detaining American sailors. And then with the threat of ISIS, I always appreciate working with former Senator Jim DeMint, but the Heritage Foundation has just presented an indication of the spread of ISIS. This is across the Eastern Hemisphere. There is also a presence of ISIS here in the Western Hemisphere, but it's a growing danger to the people of our country and families, and it's truly never been a more dangerous time. And that's why I'm so grateful to be there on the Armed Services Committee and work with so many dedicated patriots. And one of the first things that we'll do, and I was very pleased at Fayetteville last week, President-elect Trump announced that he would reverse sequestration. That is so important. Sequestration, when it went into effect, people didn't, I voted against it, but people didn't realize that what this is in reduction in spending, 50% of all the cuts were in one department, the Department of Defense. The rest was spread out over all the other agencies. And it's had a catastrophic consequence on readiness, on the equipment. You've seen where they actually had to go to the Yorktown and on aircraft that are parked for the display there, they've had to take parts off to repair aircraft for our extraordinary military. And so we're going to reverse defense sequestration. And a number of people say, well, you know, you really do need to reduce the spending. Well, what's happened is the money was really not reduced, it was shifted. And so if it had been a reduction, that's one thing, but this was not. It was a shift. And then I'm really grateful with General Bob Livingston. We worked very closely supporting the Guard and Reserve. A success story this year was that there was an effort to remove from the Guard the Apache helicopter capabilities that South Carolina has, that the Guard has. And we were able to push back on that. We've got talented people who know how important the Apaches are. And then on veterans care, I'm really grateful that Chairman Jeff Miller of the Veterans Affairs Committee, one of the first places he visited was the Dorn VA Hospital. And we were having circumstances there of double list, where there would be a list for the public as to who was getting care, and then another list actual of delay of providing very basic services such as colonoscopies, which actually led to the death of some of our veterans. But I was really grateful for the vision of Jeff Miller, and I want to commend the medical professional staff at Dorn. They were the people who brought that to my attention. It was not the veterans. The veterans didn't know that they were part of a double list. And in fact, I had been judging VA care at Charlie Norwood Hospital that serves the western part of the district, and the Dorn VA Hospital based on complaints. Well, virtually no one complained because they didn't know. But we do know now, and so and then I was really grateful for the leadership of Senator Lindsey Graham on reforming the VA system itself. That's just going to be so important that he was the person that was adopted, that if persons live 40 miles or greater away from a VA hospital, that they could actually get VA services or have medical services provided to be covered by the Veterans Administration. And so it's over and over again. I'm just looking forward to January 3rd. As Floyd Spence would have told you, you're safe when you see, if you saw him or see me here. It's when we go back that you're at risk. But that's, but January 3rd. But hey, I'm thrilled with the colleagues that I'll be serving with, and I'm just so grateful and humbled to serve the 2nd District of South Carolina, and please come by and visit. I love having people come by. Jimmy's been there 10 times trying to tell me where to go, and I appreciate that. And I've got terrific young people on staff who are just dedicated to serving you. And a change, the district, our new congressional office, I was spoiled. When I first got up there, I was in the chairman's office. Congressman Floyd Spence's office, and so it was the penthouse, and I overlooked the Capitol building. And then after my first year, they put me in a proper place, and the view I had, people said, "Goodness, look at this view! It looks like Shawshank Redemption." And so, I'm really looking forward. This coming year, we have an office in the Longworth building. That has a Capitol view. So please bring your families by, and I also want to extend invitation anytime. Don't call, just come. We give. I've got the finest young people, and many of them are related to you in so many different ways. But they know the South Carolina stories, and where the South Carolina portraits are. And where the South Carolina rooms are, they can identify the American South Carolina patriots and the beautiful portraits there. And it's a much better tour than the general tour. So please come by, and I'm happy now to answer any questions that occur. Yes.
With regard to taxation, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on the so-called Fair Tax Act, or just possibility of having a federal sales tax in any fashion.
I'm really grateful that Chairman Brady is or Kevin Brady is the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, and we had briefings on this last week, and it really was in accordance with a plan and a manifesto and a description of our goals of Speaker Paul Ryan. And we will be working toward, it's really a flat tax, is what I think is best. In fact, we had briefings last week that the goal would be to have that you could virtually fill out your taxes on a postcard. And I truly hope that we can proceed with that. And but we've got a great team. And that's going to come up. And hey, the first 100 days of this new Congress are I think, going to be extremely exciting. And I look forward to seeing on day 101 and see what we did. But it's a commitment on our part that substantive, meaningful tax reform is going to occur in regard to simplification. Yes.
There's been a lot of talk, even the new head of the VA, about better care for the veterans. But it's been a year now, and I still see these horror stories all the time. When is something really going to happen with the VA and taking care of these people who really sacrifice for it?
And we, this year we passed a VA Accountability Act, which does provide for greater oversight and also a greater ability for people to report lack of care. But more needs to be done. And then I can't wait to find out who the new VA secretary is going to be. I've actually proposed Congressman Jeff Miller of Pensacola. He has been the chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee. He's been on their backs. He's been identified as the VA's worst nightmare. What a great accolade. And so this real change is coming, January 20. Yes, Jim.
Why doesn't the real change mean do away with VA? What we could take all of that money that was being spent every year on the VA and have some kind of law that supports veterans for their health care.
And you're being a really proper troublemaker, and that is that I've thought that too. You know, a lot of the VA properties, particularly in large cities of the United States, are very valuable. They could be sold, and additionally, if you begin at 40 miles away, why not come in further? And so I would be very much in favor of eliminating the department and selling the properties, very valuable properties, all over the United States, around the world, and then providing, as we do with TRICARE, that you could go virtually anywhere and receive health care benefit, and that will really come up this coming year or two, coming.
What's your take on the 40-hour work week with the proper labor? I understand it is a junction against the fact that, you know, they don't, somebody doesn't make, if they make less than $47,576, if they work over 40 hours a week, you got to pay them.
And see how prescient Ann Walker is. The good news is that there was a court decision. This was done by executive order, pen and phone. And so there was a court decision that ruled that that was not constitutional. And so it's pending appeal. And I am confident that we can get this addressed, because the unintended consequence, particularly for nonprofits, is that it just made it impossible for people to work beyond 40 hours. And then I know a number of coaches from schools contacted me and said, hey, I'm devoted to the young people I'm working with, and it's far beyond 40 hours, but I do it because of my love and affection for the young people I'm working with, and it was on the verge of becoming illegal for them to do that. And so I'm really looking forward to addressing that. And so it's an issue, the unintended consequence of so many of these regulations, and they've been done by people who are not small business owners, and they're not people who have worked in the private sector. And so that's why the changes that are coming are going to be so beneficial for American families.
One last question.
Speaker Bryan has proposed privatizing Medicare, and I wondered what your position on that would be.
I'd have to look at it. After privatizing the VA, after eliminating the Department of Education and sending the money back to the school districts, for local school districts to run the schools, I haven't gotten totally to privatization of that, but I'm a big fan of Paul Ryan. He is just a sincere person, a person who is really dedicated to the American people. Oh my goodness, Martin.
Why don't you guys reel in executive orders on both sides of the aisle? I think they're out of hand. And Congress is supposed to have more power. The Founding Fathers envisioned things to be hard to be done, that you guys and gals had to fight about it.
Yes.
Are you going to reel in executive orders?
Absolutely. And it begins with the executive. I am confident that the new president, that the number of executive orders will be and within the Constitution, and he'll be advised to proceed within the Constitution. And I'm really grateful. My next door neighbor is going to be Jeff Sessions, is going to be the Attorney General, and I'm confident the Attorney General is going to advise him not to overstep authority. And we need to maintain the three branches of government, the checks and balances that we have, so that indeed the American people can come to members of Congress for the level of government that is being exercised. And Jim, yes?
Do you ever think we'll ever see Yucca Mountain open in our lifetime?
Yes. That's why I was so thrilled. It was an article in the Augusta Chronicle that I saw this week about where there's a survey that has been sent to the Department of Education employees, and one of the questions was relative to reopening they didn't identify it, but they call it a nuclear waste dump in Nevada. It's the only one that I'm aware of. And so, hey, I was so thrilled to see, and there were people critical of even asking the question, but it needs to be done. And hey, it's a safe and secure location. It's to the benefit of the American people. We now have the nuclear waste all over the United States. It's stunning that there hadn't been an accident of some kind that would have been utterly catastrophic. And so it needs to be a permanent repository in the middle of the desert in Nevada. Practically no population with it. Hey, it's where our earliest nuclear testing occurred. It will never look like Reno or Las Vegas. Hey, I want to, again, thank you, and it's a sincere invitation. Please, hey, I love seeing y'all when you come up there, okay? It's a real break to see real people. God bless you. Thank you.
Congressman, thank you so much for being with us today. It's a special day, and it's always special to have you here.
Thank you very much.
We love having you being one of our best visitors, too. That's great to have.
Thank you.
Real quickly, Carrie, you have an announcement to make about a new board that's just been elected?
Okay, for the board for the 2017-2018 year, which will serve with me, if you will come up here and hang around very quickly after we end the meeting. I need to see Henry Clay, Stephen Creech, Ms. Libby Gober, Ms. Beth Irick, Adam Jordan, Randolph Shives, and Glenn Ward. All right?
All right, real quickly, we will have a meeting next week. Next week, we will have a meeting, and we've got a special treat for you. Those of you who've been in the club for a while will remember Al Walker. Al is coming back to entertain us, one of the great motivational speakers, a fella in the league with Glenn Ward, so you will enjoy him a lot. So please join us for our last meeting of the year next week and listen to Al. It'll be a lot of fun. Okay, I think since we're late already, we're going to sing. All right, we're going to sing.